of all, it was a televised game, but just bring us up to date with the injury situation that we know about Michael Dawson and what a setback that is for you.
Yeah, obviously Dawson has been immaculate this year, and it's a loss, of course it is. And Myler got injured, unfortunately, training with Ireland, and of course we've got a suspension to Robertson, so we're going to have to use the squad. But the one thing I've said for a long time now, the squad's in good shape. We've got some strength and depth. Young Harry's come into the team and played particularly well, so let's hope that continues. But of course, somebody like Michael Dawson's stature and the way he's played this year, then he's going to be a miss, of course he is, but let's hope we can cope without him. Let's hope so.
It's not just so much him being a miss, it's also his leadership
skills,
his communication skills as well.
He's what I call a proper one, you know. You don't captain Tottenham for 5 years, 6 years of your career without being a very, very good player, and B, having that leadership skills which he's got. Everything he does very, very well. You know, the way he conducts himself, the way he looks after himself, the way he is in the dressing room, the way he is on the pitch. He's just a very, very good professional and a very, very good player. So when you've got all of that like we've got, and one of the reasons why we're at the top of the league has been the form of him. You know, defensively, he's been the key to it. So, and it's not easy picking out individuals, never is. But in his case, it's quite easy to wax lyrical about him because he's been excellent for us.
And you mentioned one of the reasons being him that you're at the position that you find yourself in the Championship.
Yeah.
Another reason is that before the start of the season, you saying how pivotal the KC would be to this campaign.
Well, it's important, not just, you know, there was a lot of doom and gloom in and around the supporters, of course, when you get relegated, of course. And I have to say to each and every one of them, the supporters who followed the club through thick and thin, I'm delighted for them. You know, that the team have responded from what was a miserable year last year, let's be honest. And, you know, we didn't win enough to make sure we stay in it. And of course, the one thing the supporters want is a response, and they want to be proud of their team. And we've got an excellent record at the KC, and I think they are. I think they enjoy watching us play. Certainly the last time we played Middlesbrough was a fantastic performance, and if we're going to get anything out of it against Derby, then we've got to hit them heights again, and everybody will be delighted, because it was a very, very good performance on a good afternoon for us.
Are you saying that performance is the blueprint then for Derby?
Well, you're never going to win every game 3-0, especially in a big game. Who have got the utmost respect for the opponents, and when you look at the run Derby have been on, Burnley have been on, Brighton have been on, we've been on an unbelievable run and hadn't shook any of them off. So they're doing something right too. So as always, the Championship's intriguing. There's 4 or 5 of us at the moment going into the halfway mark, or going into Christmas, and still a long way to go, but the winter's upon us, and it's who handles it best.
It's this hectic time of the year now, isn't it? It's this hectic schedule. So should you win on Friday, how much of a mark? Well,
it's a great time to play, and you're right, but I think that is the Championship. It's the schedule and the amount of games you play. You know, I think we played 8 before the international games. I think we played 7 or 8 games in 22, 23 days. The same's coming up now. I think we've got 8 games in the next 28 days or whatever it is. It's a grueling schedule. It's Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday for the foreseeable future, and it's how you cope with that. And of course now we've picked up a couple of injuries and a couple of suspensions, and that's when you need your squad of players to stand up and do their jobs. So they've been knocking the door and wanting the opportunity, and over the next few weeks I'm sure most of the squad are going to get it.
Other managers talk about this strong squad that you have. I suppose this now presents itself an opportunity for your supporters to see why you have these players here.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time during the summer was, what's the squad going to be like? And I think a lot of people were not scared of it, but we were the last club, I think, to go into the transfer market of all the divisions. So we had to be a bit patient. And I have to say a big compliment to all the young players we've brought in too, who, yes, we've kept the mixture of the Premier League players, but I think their role has been equally as important, if not more so. They've brought a bit of youth and a bit of exuberance to the team. You know, the 2 lads we've brought in on loan from Arsenal, Harry Maguire, who's had to wait 15 months, young Andy Robertson, Sam Klukas, all have come into the squad and done remarkably well for young players, which Odebejo is another one. You know, we talk about we're defence against Middlesbrough. 3 of them were 22-year-old. So that bears well, and I think they deserve a big pat on the back because they've give a youthful freshness about the squad, which it needed after being relegated. It was important to get that balance right, so all credit to them. And of course, we know getting Livermore back, Snodgrass is probably going to be on the bench, getting Diarmi fit, all of the people who we missed in big chunks of last season. Dawson, there's another one, where they're all got back fit, and if they get back fit, and then we always knew that would be okay.
Derby have thrown a lot of money on it. You touched on their form earlier on. What kind of test do they?
Well, big test because they've been on a hell of a run. As I've said, I think we've lost 2 in 21 games, and not shook anybody off. You know, so fair play to Derby. They must be on some run, and Burnley, and of course Brighton. You know, just disrespect to Chris, but I never thought they would be 18 unbeaten. It's a remarkable achievement. So, you know, the championship is always a great race. It's always a tough encounter, but we're in amongst them. Let's hope we're in amongst them in another few weeks' time, because it's now starts for me. Just about starts. We've had a good start, and now the winter months are upon us, and who can handle the pressure of going into the next few weeks and months? And let's hope we can.
And has Paul impressed you, the way he's come into Derby and set?
Well, I'm delighted that he's English for a start, and I'm no disrespect to any of the foreign managers, but it's good to see a young English one given a chance. And he's had a remarkable career in terms of what he's done, from being a youth coach at various clubs to then getting a real big opportunity to work with one of the great managers, Ancelotti. So it's great to see somebody like him given a chance. And I hope there's more young English, British, whatever you want to say, managers, because you know they're a dying breed these days, and it's good to see him do so well. And I wish him the best of luck, of course, after tomorrow.
Sleep, you talked about the young group that you brought in the summer. I guess they just maybe energised that core you still had. Just
absolutely.
Make sure you didn't have a hangover from the Premier League relegation.
It was important. It was important that they did that they energised the squad. That's exactly the right word I was looking for. I didn't use it, but they have. They've given that youth, and all of them, Odebejo, Harry, Robertson, the 2 boys from Arsenal, you know, they've all played their part. Klukas in particular, who's probably not missed a game, have all come in, and to add to the experience we've got, have give that little bit of exuberance to us, which is good.
When you look at the league now, it's a few years ago since you won the championship, do you feel you need a better squad because of the quality right across the board now in this division?
Well, I think we're 8 points at this stage. We're 8 points better off. Last time we were 66-1 outsiders. We won 13 games 1-0. So they were close encounters. On paper and as a squad, then we're a million miles from where we were 3 years ago. And rightly so, we've been in the Premier League for 2 years. The big key to it all was, of course, for me, was the transfer window closing. And then the squad, or trying to get the squad in some sort of shape to get focused of what lies ahead. And it's fair to say we had a slowish start, but I think they've grasped the situation and realised the situation they're in, and I think they want to put right what they were here last year. They want to try and get back to where we were last year, because if you've got anything about you, you want to be playing in the big league, and that's where we want to try and get to.
I guess there's a different type of pressure though, because now there's an expectation level, so you have to manage that expectation and live with it.
Yeah, well, you know, we were probably bookies' favourites. I'm sure they don't really look, we're not allowed to gamble, so we don't have a look now anymore. And rightly so. You know, we've got some experienced players who've played in the Premier League, so we've got to live with that expectation. A lot of teams have come to the KC this year and changed formation and tried to shut up shop, if you like, which fair enough. So we have to find a way through that and be a bit patient in that respect. But overall, we've had a really decent start. We're a third of the way through, so it's not a start now. We must maintain it over the winter months. We've got to be in the shake-up when the tickly bit starts, and that's about 3 months off.
I suppose you can look at that squad and talk about expectation. I mean, you look down the team sheet and it must fill you with a lot of confidence when you see the quality of the personnel you've got to pick from.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, I think that's paramount. That if you're gonna mount a challenge, and you're going to play the number of games that we're going to play, then you're going to pick up injuries and suspensions. And it's the first time really now that we've been hit with 2 or 3 missing, 2 or 3 or 4 missing. So we have to deal with that and cope with that. But I'm confident when you see the squad anyway that we can cope with it.
I suppose Derby have also shown their intent, though, haven't they? Because they bought big, they've got personnel that you think, well, they play the Premier League too, some of those guys.
Yeah. Well, they bought a player off us, so we didn't want it to leave. So it shows their spending power, you know. But, you know, we expected Derby to be there or thereabouts with the spending power and what they've been able to do in the summer. They've recruited very, very well. They've brought in 5 or 6 very, very good players for the Championship. And they just missed out last year. So they've improved this year. So they're always going to be one that we have to beat. And if we can beat them tomorrow night, then of course that'll help the situation. But I expect Derby to be there or thereabouts.
You touched on the player I was going to mention to you, which is Tom Ince. I just wonder about his circumstances, because he was kind of on the fringes last season for you. Yeah. Was it just circumstances?
It was difficult. Yeah, circumstances are difficult because we couldn't win a game last year unless we played the 3 at the back. And what we had done for 2.5 years, and he found it a bit restricted on him, and he didn't really play enough, which was always the disappointment for him. But make no mistake, he's a very, very good young player, and as I've said, we've brought in some young players. The ones we lost were young, Ince being one of them, Chester being another, Brady another. So we never really wanted to lose the young players, what you've got, but unfortunately when you get relegated, then you've got to cut your cloth as well. So we've managed to do that. You know, we've got decent money for all the ones we've let go, and we've invested into the squad. Some of that money, of course. But after tomorrow, I wish Ince the best of luck, because he didn't really have a fair crack here, if the truth was told.
I suppose last season as well, you were in a relegation struggle.
Yeah, difficult. And he's a young player. Well, there was a lot. There was a lot of the young players. Robertson, Maguire, Ince, all of these people were brought in, and the one thing you don't want to be doing is throwing them into a relegation fight, and unfortunately they were. And in the end, we weren't good enough to get out that relegation fight. So they were the circumstances to why probably didn't have the crack that he would have liked to. I'm sure he would have loved to have played more. And in hindsight, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but in hindsight, maybe he should have played a bit more. But there you have it. Just
funny, you mentioned Paul Clement and that he's gone in there doing a good job at Derby. Initially, there was a little bit of a transitional period. I think the first couple of games that they didn't quite hit the form that we were expected to. But I suppose that shows you patience, don't you, in this game?
Well, I mean, look, even now he's only been in 3-4 months, you know, and he's all right now. But the first 3 or 4 weeks, of course, any manager, no matter how good you are, the one thing we all need is time. And unfortunately, it seems to be a dying breed that you get time. So, on all chairmen and all managers, and the one thing managers seem to not get now is that time. So, you're hoping that all managers, owners, chief executives then start giving managers a bit more time, because the situation at the minute is ludicrous, you know, absolutely ludicrous. But that's unfortunately what we'll have to deal with.
Steve Snoddy's on the verge of a return. Just tell us about the work that he's been through the last 15, 16 months since his injury to get back. Well,
I'm sure he's had many, many dark moments, because it was an horrific injury. And for somebody like Snoddy, who's never had an injury, was probably even more difficult. You know, if you've had an experience from picking up an injury and even if you had to be out for 6 weeks, I don't think Snoddy missed a game for more than a week. I don't think he's been injured. So it was difficult. And fair play to him, the hours he's put in here, the hours he spent with physios and me medical staff has been incredible to get him to this stage. He's now been training a month. He's played 3 games. He's still got, in my opinion, it's still a long way to go. But the introduction to him on the squad, an introduction to him probably starting on the bench, is great for everybody to see, because I'm sick and tired of making excuses for last year, but he was one. You know, a club like ours, to spend 8.5 million and lose him after 19 minutes was tough. And we still haven't seen really Snodgrass play for Hull yet. So let's hope now that he can recapture the form that made him a really, really good player. He's done everything he possibly can do to get back fit. And we're all delighted to see him take part and be part of the squad again. And I'm sure for him, he'd be like starting all over again and making his debut all over again. So let's hope he's, touch wood, stays injury free and he gets on with his career again.
Thank you very much.
Last week, Steve, you mentioned I think that Snodgrass was going to be out for still about a month. What's gone on in the last week apart from that?
I think it was before the international break. I said it was about a month. I think with the suspensions, I'm not going to try to say to you I'm rushing him back. That would be wrong. But the way he's played, the way he played last Monday, the way he's trained, he's done everything he possibly can in that respect. He's played in the under-21s. He's trained for a month. So really the next stage is, look, he's as ready as he's ever going to be. Now, we're going to have to be patient with him and have time with him because he's been such a long, long time out. But I'm hoping towards, the spring, then we're going to have Robert Snodgrass being the Robert Snodgrass that we all know. So we've got to be patient with him and not expect wonders off him straight away.